everyone, welcome to the Vectra AI Podcast. If you're new to the podcast, this is a series where we in the product team talk about the latest trend, latest threat, product innovation, and topics we are passionate about. I'm Tiff, and today we have Serio with us, our senior technical marketing engineer. Serio, do you want to give everyone a quick intro for yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. So I joined Vectra 3 years ago now, and I'm part of the technical marketing, and I like to focus on offensive security. I have a background in pen testing, and so yeah, that's it.
Amazing. Perfect. So today we have a new topic for our threat briefing series, MFA Bypass via phishing. And I know that Cyrille has done a lot of research on that. He was doing education with our internal team, and so I have to invite him here to share it with all of us. Especially according to Gartner, attackers have proven ways to bypass prevention such as MFA. So let's dive right into it. And my first question to you, Cyrille, is so can you walk us through some of the ways how attacker can bypass MFA via phishing?
Yeah, so before we start talking about phishing, we need to understand that many people tend to believe that MFA is the ultimate solution, but we will see that it's not true. MFA could be bypassed sometimes, and so attackers could have initial access to an account. And OAuth device code flow is one example. So this one is used by, for example, smart TV. So this example is coming from Netflix. When you want to authenticate on your Netflix account on your smart TV, obviously you don't have any keyboard on your TV. So the solution is to use the OAuth device code flow. So Netflix will present you a code on your smart TV, and you will use your phone on the right. And by opening the website of Netflix, you will have to confirm this code, and so you will be able to authenticate your smart TV to your Netflix account. Okay, so this is the introduction. And now let's speak more about Entra ID. So this is an example coming from Microsoft website explaining the device code flow. So very quickly, a client will contact the device code endpoint and will ask for a verification URI and a user code. So the user code is very important. And then using a web browser, they can send the user code to the login server on Entra ID, and then they will receive the authentication challenge. So they will complete the authentication, and after that, the user is authenticated. But if we look on the client part, so the client will start a loop on the token endpoint. Okay, providing the device code, they will want to get the tokens, and at some point the token will be retrieved. So this example is a phishing email. So this one is asking the target to authenticate and register the device. So you can imagine many different scenarios. It's very important to make it urgent, so the people will want to complete it and click on the link and enter the code. So yeah, okay. So this one is a progression of the attack using device code flow phishing. So first of all, the attacker will contact Entra ID and will request for a code, a device code. Then Entra ID will provide this code. It's important to understand that at this point, the attacker doesn't need any account. He just needs to know the tenant ID, but this is public information, so it's not complicated. And then they will send a phishing email to the victim with this device code included. And so they will have to force the victim to click on the link. So if the victim clicks on the link, they will be asked by Microsoft website to enter the code. So at this point, the victim will copy paste the code on the Microsoft website. Then they will be asked to pick an account. So it's important to notice that there is the region is indicated on the web page, okay? But the attacker could use a web server, the machine, I mean, somewhere in your region. So it will be less suspicious for you this way.
Yeah.
And so when you have selected your account, Microsoft will ask you to confirm if you want to sign into the application, because we are talking about application. So in this case, the application is Microsoft Office. It is one of the apps an attacker could use. And so if you validate the sign-in to this application, the attacker will retry the tokens by polling Entra ID. So at some point, they will get the tokens. And with these tokens, they will be able to access your information. So for example, Teams conversation, emails, so they will gain some knowledge.
Yeah. So with this, the attacker don't even, to your point, need to steal a credential to progress the attack. They basically send you a legitimate looking email from Microsoft, even from your region, ask the victim to put in the code they provide, and they're pretty much in.
Yeah. And the important thing to underline is that the victim has MFA configured, but the MFA is done. I mean, the victim could be already authenticated against Microsoft.
Yeah.
And so MFA is validated.
Yeah. And how fast is the process?
It's very quick. It needs to be
Minutes.
quick, by the way, because the code is valid only for 15 minutes. So attackers could find other ways to bypass this limitation, but by default, the code is valid only for 15 minutes.
Yeah. Basically, within 15 minutes, this whole thing can happen. That's really fast. My next question to you is, so what are the other ways attackers can bypass MFA beside this particular examples?
Yeah, so we just saw one example. So the device code flow is one, but they can use many others bypasses. So we have 6 listed here, but there are others. So for example, number 2, MFA bombing is also known as MFA fatigue. So you will send many requests to the target. At some point, the user will click OK, allow, and MFA will be bypassed. But we can find others bypasses like OAuth consent. So a user will accept an application to access his information from Entra ID. So this is another way to gain initial access to an account.
Got it. And we know that from previous threat briefings, Scatter Spider is very used to using SIM swapping techniques as well. So that's another one that can bypass MFA or prevention in general to get into the environment. And so my last question today for you is, so what are the recommendations for an MFA bypass attacks?
Okay, so the most important thing to do is reviewing your conditional access policies in Entra ID. So, for example, you can limit access to compliant devices or hybrid joint devices. And you could also block all unsupported operating systems because it's very easy to fake the operating system. So for example, if you only configure access for Windows devices, okay, the attacker could send a request and faking OS2 operating system, for example. And so they may be able to bypass your conditional access policies. And the last point is also the authentication workflow. that has been released by Microsoft.
Mm.
It's still a preview feature, so maybe it could be dangerous to use it in production today because the support is limited from Microsoft. But with that, in the condition section of your conditional access policies, you can say, okay, this policy only apply on device code flow. So you can disable it if you are not using it, or you can also limit the usage by users or application. So this is a good way to protect your tenant against device code flow phishing.
Yeah.
And also the last point, I think this is very important. So you should not focus on initial access. I mean, there are many ways to gain initial access, but after the initial compromise, the attacker will do some recon. They will do some privilege escalation. And so it's very important to use a complete solution like Vectra AI platform. And so you need to check for network, for identity protection as well, and also for cloud, because at some point the attacker will escalate and find a way to gain privileges.
Yeah, and within Vectra, we always ask what should be more important, attacker that might come in or attacker that is already in your environment, right? So we emphasize the importance of post-compromise because we know that it takes long to get the posture right, and it's also a forever work in progress with new workload application coming up all the time. So threat detection is where that can bring you value now and can really help you stop the attack that is already in your environment. Yeah, and with that, I just want to highlight two more things before we wrap it up. The first thing is so for those who wonder how resilient is your own security environment, that is against attacker that can bypass MFA, do check out our identity exposure gap analysis. This is pretty much where our team will sit down with you and use an open source red team tool to conduct a security testing with you, assuming that attacker is already in your environment, in your Microsoft Cloud environment. So you can test whether you can detect these attacks with your existing toolkits and identify any gap in your environment. Quickly, next thing is that if you're not ready to do the testing yet but want to learn more about your identity exposure, do check out our identity exposure calculator, and we'll put all the links in the description box below. And last but not least, if you haven't already checked out our other threat briefings and other episodes, product innovation on our channel, make sure you subscribe to us as well so that you can stay updated to all of the new upcoming episodes. And with that, thanks again, Cyrille, for the detailed walkthrough of this technology and sharing your knowledge with us. Hope to see you more in our podcast. And again, thanks everyone for joining us today, and see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.